All right, we have Elle Russ in the house again. Elle, we're so excited to talk to you about this new and exciting chapter in your life, this new book that just rolled out called Confident as F-U*K. You can use your imagination, or Confident as AF. We'll refer to it during the show. So many of the people have already listened to our original podcast, but for those that might be new to this podcast and new to you, why don't you tell us a little bit about Elle Russ, who you are, and kind of what led to this book?
Well, for those that don't know me, I was part of the Primal Health Coach program, like the beta tester for it, many, many years ago, and was the 5th person to be certified in it. It was just, I love it. So exciting. And by the way, every Primal Health Coach that I run into or communicate with is just like awesome, awesome people, really good group. So, I've been working with Mark Sisson for 7 years. He published my first book, The Paleo Thyroid Solution, which I talk extensively about. And, I was a comedy writer before I even wrote Paleo Thyroid Solution. I have an award-winning documentary out, etc. So I've not just been in my mind pigeonholed to health ever. I was compelled to write the Paleo Thyroid Solution, but I'm more, this time I was just super compelled to write a book that's relatable to my life in terms of, throughout my life, the people that are drawn to me are people that are seeking confidence from me because of what I exude. They are coming to me because they're just too shy or weird to ask Mark Sisson for a raise, and they call me because they're like, how do I do this? How do I declare my worth? People come to me because they need encouragement and pep talks on speaking up for themselves or making pro-me moves. Now, that being said, all of these people, it's not like, I sit on a high horse as the oracle at Delphi and everybody's coming to me for confidence. Here's what confident people miss, and that's why this book is also for confident people. So, I've had a couple friends be like, well, I'm really confident. Do I need it? I'm like, you probably need it more than the people. And here's why, because confident people who are highly confident like myself, we have issues with a couple of things. Number one, active listening. So being an interviewer, obviously when I'm interviewed, I get to talk a lot, but, being an interviewer has helped me there. And then also, and being a coach. And then the other part of it too is we're really inaccessible. Alpha chicks like me are very inaccessible. We have this kind of wall around us that says like, I'm tough. I don't want to be seen as weak. And so people gravitate towards us, but then they're like, I can't understand, like they can't get to know us. We're not accessible. And it's because we're hiding the vulnerability in certain areas. So we have a lot to learn from these people too. It's reciprocal. They also often are people who are less confident, let's say, or maybe more of the quiet type or a beta personality, which is not to be taken negatively. They are better at receiving, and they're also better at diplomacy. We have a lot to learn. Confident people, I will come at you, right? I'll react right away in a lot of circumstances, but you have to learn to take that breath, think before you speak. And those people, while they need better advice and, they need to speak up, they also have a way of diplomacy that really we could value, be valuable to us. So it's a symbiotic relationship, but that's why I noticed that my whole entire life, people are coming to me to be stronger and more confident. Now, that being said, I am one of the most confident people I've ever met in my life, but that doesn't mean that I didn't have something in the background that was chiseling away at that. And so that's where you have to look into all of these tenets I'm talking about in my book. And particularly I have a chapter on, mentioned it to you guys before, talked about it at Paleo FX, how shame disables confidence. My physical disability, the shame of that was more disabling than the actual, disability itself. And so if you're hiding something here, you've got shame over here in one little area, and you think it's not going to mess with the others, it will. It absolutely will. And that's why confident people need this book too, so they can go and like, where can I refine my stuff? Where can I refine this confidence or be even a better example and role model as a confident person?
So I love that. And the reason I wanted to get you back on this podcast is the number one thing that gets in the way of every health coach that wants to go to business is lack of confidence. Lack of confidence in putting themselves out there, fear of being vulnerable, the imposter syndrome is so real and it's so common to this group. And so I really just kind of wanted you to come on here and help deconstruct this for us, which is actually one of the chapters in your book, Deconstructing Confidence.
It's the first chapter. I break it down because, a lot of people misunderstand confidence. And I want to tell everyone right now, I'm not here. when I say confidence, I'm not talking about the outer confidence that I have right now in the ability to be in front of a camera, be completely comfortable, or on a stage of 50,000 people. However, you can get there. I have seen people with debilitating shyness who couldn't even talk to people in the real world, had to hire a social coach to bring them to a mall to even start a conversation. You can start at ground zero and then become a performer. Absolutely. Performance confidence is learned. That's practice. Okay. So that's something everybody can do. And that's not necessarily what I'm even talking about. I want you to be confident AF housewife. You might have to stand up to some PTA over there or whatever. You don't know where you're going to need to stand up. You need to stand up for your children when you're out there in some kind of business transaction. So you need confidence from the boardroom to the bedroom, everywhere in between. How you're going to speak up and get what you want out of a relationship or a sexual experience, a lover, whatever. So it's key to everything. The more we refine it and increase it, then all of the areas of life are better. And when let's talk about this imposter syndrome. So by that, I'm assuming you mean the whole thing where people have who do I think I am?
Right.
Yep.
All right. Well, here's the truth. I mean, it's not that before a speech or something, I don't also have a moment. Or if I'm walking into an audition at Paramount Studios in Hollywood, it's not that I have a moment. I might have a moment of oh my God, who do I think I am? The difference between that and someone else is my moment. It's immediately turned around. I say to myself things like, girl, you asked for this life. What you talking about? You asked for this. This is a dream. You know how many actors in the world would be dying to drive into Paramount? What do you do? To me, it's a lot of self-talk. Sometimes you just got to talk it out and you get in there. That's just the difference. I turn it around quickly. It doesn't mean the stuff still doesn't come up occasionally. Doesn't mean I don't get a little imposter syndrome there either. But the bottom line is the most confident AF people in the world, I would argue, are actually vulnerable because they truly don't care about what other people think of them, including showing vulnerability, not considering it a weakness. And that was my problem. That was my issue that I had to resolve in order to be confident AF. I had to kind of get there and make it a full, all-encompassing confidence versus having this thing lingering in the background that was just chiseling away at it. And for me, it affected romantic relationships and just friendships where other people, it might affect their job or their career or some other avenue. It just doesn't matter where it is that you're lacking. So at the end of the day, though, you know what I really love? So there's this person out there in the world. I really won't out them and tell them who they are, but you know how you have a doctor of jurisprudence if you're a lawyer? Mm-hmm. Yep. It would be kind of weird if you were walking around in the world and you just called yourself a doctor and you were a lawyer, right? But you are technically a doctor. Now, a lot of people would feel weird about that, but there are some people that just declare it out of nowhere, and even though most people don't do that. And again, so if you, I guess my ultimate point is no one's going to do it for you. And confident people are trusted. End of story. When I used to hire people, I'd rather hire a confident person than a skilled person because I know that confident person is going to be proactive. They're going to be on time. They're going to be reliable. They're going to be a quick learner. Employers prefer confidence over skill. That says everything you need to know about gaining confidence. Now, I'm not suggesting everyone becomes a con man and fakes it. You know what I mean? And there might be a little bit internal faking, but I'm not talking about true con man stuff where you're just lying. Hey, this is going to fire back at you. You'll be found out. And I mentioned confidence as a misuse of confidence in the book. So basically, if we look at confidence, there's so many levels to it, but essentially it's the general belief that you will prevail in whatever it is. Just a general belief that you prevail, having some sort of overall faith. Now, there's lots of ways to get there. But again, at the end of the day, nobody's going to be your salesperson for you. If you have $30,000 a year to spend on a PR agent, go for it. But then what are you going to do when they get you the interview and you are not believing in what you're saying or you're not feeling comfortable in the material you're professing? Now, sometimes confidence, at least with coaching too, and I can see this with going through the whole Primal Health Coach program and then being like, all right, I learned this. How do I synthesize it so that people can understand it? What's my spiel? You guys have heard me talk a bunch. I kind of say some of the similar things. I probably stole a couple of things from Mark, that I credited him on whatever. You need to have how you're going to describe it. If someone's like, well, what's paleo and primal mean? Well, I hope you have gotten together your explanation, and you must do that first before you're going to go out there. But again, nobody cares more about your life than you. And when you're in any kind of independent contractor situation, like a coach or again, even an actor or a painter, anything where no one's hiring you, there's no full-time job, there's no benchmarks in that industry, you just have to go forge ahead. Again, the confident people are going to win, and they're not necessarily the best. The most confident coaches out there may not even be the best coaches, but you know what? That's okay. I mean, but they got there, they did it. You know what I mean? And so you can see how important it is, because it's not that the most skilled people win, the most confident people usually win.
100%. Well, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like 2020 is going to be the year of confidence, because I feel like I keep hearing people talking about it just lately, right? Laura mentioned Dr. John Rosenberg, that episode was mind-blowingly awesome, but I've had even, I have a buddy who's becoming a confidence coach, right? That's going to be his niche, right? So but what I love about sort of how you articulated that, Elle, is you're like, I'm confident. Like, you confidently declared your confidence. I guess my question is, like, how and when did you recognize that and uncover it in yourself? Because I feel like, this is just my sort of train of thought, I feel like when we get into a certain maybe age or season in our life, we start to kind of reflect inward on our advantages, I would call it. Because to me, confidence is an advantage. It's a character trait, I guess, but it's also an advantage. And it's like you get to a certain point in your life where you want to sort of step boldly into who you are and what you actually are. So how did you uncover this? Or have you always known this about yourself? Were you born confident? Did you curate confidence? Was it a little bit of both? Like, tell us about your confidence origins.
Yeah, I'm really lucky because, well, and you know, I talk about this book. We start off as confident babies. Okay, so unless you're like born and your ass is beaten right away or something horribly traumatic, you are declaring your worth at every second, right? No, you're screaming. You have no shame as a baby about like, no, I want that. No, give me that. You know what I mean? So kids are confident. So then what happens along the way? Yeah. All right. So then maybe it's like, you know, the grade school teacher says you're going to amount to nothing. Ding, number one, right? You know, okay. So then we go down the road, and that's what I talk about in the book. You got to uncover and get rid of this parental garbage. That's literally what it's titled in the book. And I had some too. And let me tell you about mine. So I was raised by really confident people. In fact, my grandmother was like the first youngest female attorney in the state of Illinois back in the day. She helped women get allowed to be served on juries when women weren't even allowed to judge. She was a confident AF for sure. And my mother was too. I'll tell you one of the things, and we'll talk about women and that thing we talked about earlier, Laura, with my mom. So I was born confident. However, life stuff was thrown at me. And here's what was thrown at me. My father, who was super awesome, funny, hilarious, he was a drunk, you guys. He was a nice drunk. He was a fun drunk, but he was like hanging out with a college buddy. The guy, you know, had everything in his life. He was raised wealthy. He went to boarding schools in Switzerland. They had everything. Everything looked lovely, you know. And then back in the day, you know, boy meets girl, my mom meets dad. And it was like, oh, you'll stay at home and take care of the kids. That was kind of a standard thing. And we're having this lovely life. And then the drinking didn't stop. Like, my mom was like, I thought that was a college thing. You know what I mean? The drinking didn't stop, and my dad lost all of our money. Horribly embarrassing, you guys. I'm in the middle of grade school. I'm so embarrassed that my dad's like a loser drunk. And he's, again, never said a nasty word to us, no fights, no horrific like drunken behavior, just though unreliable. And so when he lost all of our money and he did this, I was just watching my mom going, oh my God, she stayed home for this. And then look at what hit her. And my story at that time that I expressed out loud and to myself was the following. You know what? That's it. I'm going to go make my own money, because you clearly can't trust a man, because even when they come really wealthy and educated and with a great family, you never know. You might get dropped in the dust, broke as hell with 2 kids to support. That was my story. So what do you think showed up for me? People that were unreliable. Every guy I drew in after that kind of declaration was either unreliable in some way, emotionally unavailable, long distance, wasn't available for a relationship, or they cheated, total sense of mistrust. Either way, every time I kept getting proven right. Wow. See, told ya. But then I noticed one day, you know what? This doesn't happen to any of my other girlfriends. No one has gone through these sort of like trust tragedies with guys. The relationship might have not worked out. I didn't get along, but none of this junk. I'm the common denominator. What the F, right? And that's when I had to really do some come to Jesus work. I got a book called Calling in the One by Catherine Woodward Thomas, which is great. It really evaluates how you look at relationships. The Soulmate Secret by Ariel Ford. I started to really go, okay, hold on a second. The story about my dad and how I feel about men. And here's the other thing. All of my male friends were the epitome of what I wanted. They were all great fathers. They were all incredibly present. They were just good men. They would never cheat on a woman. So here I am. I'm choosing all of the great men as my friends, yet my boyfriends that I'm bringing in are just continually proving this story that I had because of the parental garbage. And so, you know what? It wasn't until I finally was like, okay, this is enough. And so after that, I really started to attract the right types of people where I didn't have these trust issues or they were reliable. And again, so we have to go through the parental garbage, and I give a bunch of examples of that in the book. For example, I'll give you one good example of Brandon in the book. Brandon grew up and everything fine and dandy, except for that he was sort of always blamed for things that were missing. So let's say his father couldn't find the hammer. He'd blame the kid, yell at the kid. Brandon would be like, I didn't do it. Then the dad would find the hammer and never apologize. So this kid, Brandon, was always kind of made to be wrong all the time, right? Yeah. Falsely so. So what do you think happened? When this guy got older and finally started to go into, he's a contractor and going on to projects, he started to get everything would go wrong and he would be blamed for it. And it wasn't even his fault. That's the thing. Just stuff would go wrong. And then he'd have a patronizing, producer or a manager who would yell at him. So the course of coaching with Brandon was, first of all, getting to the point where it's like, hey, let's look at this. You don't have to be wrong. You realize that, right? Like you're not always wrong. You don't have to be wrong. Yet you are making yourself wrong and you're continually attracting it. So what we started to do is get Brandon comfortable with the next time this would happen on a job, they were prepared to be like, hey, if you're not going to talk to me in appropriate tone, then I'm walking off this job right now. Now, that's a place you got to get to. They had to be prepared to lose that money. They had to be in a position to kind of get that. And what did they do? It happened one more time. They stood up. And usually what happens, and I talk about this a lot in the book, when you stand up to a bully, they acquiesce and they crumble. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. And it never happened again. In fact, after that, they stopped working with that particular manager after they finally called it out. And actually things went well. They worked with them a couple more times and the person was super chill. But the best part is that then they started to get contracts where literally after the job, people would write Brandon and be like, oh my God, Brandon, the best time working with you. Thank you so much for this. Nothing went wrong. Nothing ever went wrong. Now, what I do say is that you can overcome something like that and you'll get a tester. You'll have a couple good runs. Universe will throw you a tester to go, are you sure you speaking up for yourself? And so Brandon did get one tester that he had to kind of stand up for. But for the most part, it's been 5 years now. And Brandon continually attracts jobs that go well and nothing goes wrong. So it could be something as small as missing hammers and, where the hell did you put the whatever? Or something like me where you've got a father figure and a man in your life that lets you down this story. So again, these things are pitfalls to confidence, right? And again, because I wasn't confident, my disability thing also contributed because I was so ashamed of it, I didn't want to talk about it. So not only did I have this story, but then I had the double of really not being vulnerable and open with my boyfriends and sharing my biggest story of my life because I was afraid of getting rejected. And again, so disabling, so not healthy for any type of relationships out there. And it was digging away my kind. Now I have no shame about my shame. I wish I would have figured this out sooner. But that was my last piece before becoming confident AF, because I already was, right? Now, I want to get back to women. So my mother, and I really, God bless for this. My mother was such a good example. My mother helped other women all the time succeed. And my mother never had drama, BS housewife arguments with any of her girlfriends. She just wasn't like that. My mother was always supportive of other women. I'm so grateful for that because when I don't have friends like that, and when I see it, I want to run as far as possible. But the part that I put in my book is, if anything, women particularly, we have to be pro-women. Okay, we can talk about competition or feeling of lack, but enough is enough. I will be the new spokesperson for that. But we have to encourage each other. And if you're out there and you have girlfriends that you think are jealous of you or they're not supportive, guess what they are? Get rid of them, because it's going to dig away your confidence. You don't need to keep hitting that wall every day. Get rid of them. Really? You want someone next to you that I've had it. I'm sure you guys have too. I'll tell you a great one. I had a friend from high school. I don't talk to this person anymore. But the day I knew that I was like, oh, she is not my friend, is the day, it was 20 years ago. She said something like, I think it'd be really cute if you cut your hair short. And I was like,
saboteur.
But you guys, look, I have my hair straight now, but I have a big head of curly hair. Are you kidding me?
Right.
That's a biatch that don't want you to succeed. They want you to look ugly. And in that moment, I was like, oh, no way am I going to be friends with her ever again. That is such a clear sign that you're not in my favor. So I don't hang out with people that are not in my favor. And I don't share my glory or my excitement with people that I know are either downers, we can get into that, or again, so but women need to be pro-women. And if you don't have those women, you need to get with alpha chicks like us who are going to support you and aren't going to feel threatened by you. If any woman came to me and was like, I want to be a writer and a podcaster, I'd be like, great, how can I help you? There would be I have no sense of threat or competition from anybody. And so you have to get to that point too. Because if you're in a world where you're feeling like you're competing against others, that is such low self-esteem and you won't ever succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, coaches. Hear that, coaches?
That's right. Right. We often hear that in our group, this sort of, it's that scarcity mindset, right? I hear from people as the director of admissions from our program, we've talked about this before, how people will be like, I feel like everybody's a coach. Like, how am I going to differentiate myself? And there's not enough room for me or other people. And how do I, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, you've got to step outside of your bubble because that statement right there is so not true. And a lot of this is mindset related, whether it's speaking up and supporting each other. And it's funny how you talk about, you brought this back to children, because I see it in my kids. Speaking up is not a problem for children at all. As a matter of fact, I have to stop myself from being like, shut up. Like, I don't want to hear it anymore, but I don't want to stifle that, right? I want them to want to speak up. But at some point down the road, you're right. Kids lose it. It's parental baggage or maybe societal baggage when you do speak up just because you've always felt confident doing so, and then somebody puts you down.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about in the book, we had a grade school teacher that would just tell the whole class, she's like, if you don't learn math and become good at it, you're all going to be sweeping floors at, Great America. It's like, first of all, I hate math. I don't like it. And I'm not really good at it because I don't like it. Secondly, my science teacher said the same thing. If you don't learn science, you're going to be, this, that, and the other, never going to go anywhere in the world. Oh, interesting. So I got like the worst grades in those classes because I didn't give a hoot about it. And who turned out to write a best-selling book related to science? I. You downer teacher. Okay, so it starts there, but also too, here's the thing. So I talk about kids. Couple notes on kids. One, people need to start to compliment women on other things than being cute and pretty. Okay, this is how we need to help with girls, young girls. So we need to make sure that while, yes, girls want to be complimented on their hair and their cute bows, we need to also make sure we're putting in things like, that's a really smart way to look at things when the kid makes an observation. And to detail why it's smart. We all know we're adults. We can tell a childhood observation and why that's so smart. These are the things we need to start doing for women too, to gain more inner confidence versus this superficial kind. And then also too, kids getting bullied. So I had an experience with a kid where we were at a pool, and my friend's daughter, and we were at a pool and there were a couple kids in the pool, and she goes, I'm scared to go in the pool. I get scared around other kids. I said, why is that? Or do you think they're going to be mean to you? She goes, I'm just afraid of getting bullied. And so I was like, oh, let's talk about that. And we got into some stuff that happened at school. She tells me this story about how she's at the lunch table with all the kids that she normally eats with. And she says to them, hey, if it's okay, I'm going to go eat with, Joe over there. And one of the girls at the table was like, all right, well, you can eat with Joe on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but that's it, like dictating this. And and my friend's daughter was a little bit too weak to speak up. And her friend goes, hey, you're not going to dictate. She'll do what she wants. You're not going to tell her when she can and can't eat with you. And I was like, whoever that kid is deserves an Oscar. And whoever those parents of that kid deserves an Oscar. So we need to start talking to kids in ways where they're going to understand how to speak up for themselves. Now, that kid's first mistake was asking permission to the table. Right. See, that's the only thing I would have changed about that, is I would have walked in and be like, I'm going to go eat with Joe today. See you guys tomorrow. I'm not going to ask you permission. But see, she's already in that position as someone who's afraid of being bullied. So this is how she approaches a table or approaches other kids. And then she's got to have her confident AF friend go stick up for her, right? So again, there's so many things that we need to talk about with kids when we're talking about bullying, especially not like, oh, just don't, who cares what they say? Don't give them any mind. That's really just discounting it. That's right. Like someone saying to me, oh, you're so stupid to be ashamed of your disability. It's not your fault you got injured. That's still discounting me as being ridiculous here. Let's get into it. So I think we need to just be more attentive and detailed in our conversations with kids when it comes to confidence. And again, I've had issues over the years. When my dad lost all of our money, I felt so not made fun of by other people outwardly, but some of the kids kind of didn't want to hang out with me anymore. Maybe they were embarrassed. Maybe their parents were like, I don't know what it was, but I definitely felt beaten down. I also got kicked out of high school. So, you know, I had a moment there where I was like just the black sheep of the city. I mean, like not a lot of kids got kicked out of high school. And it was like, oh my God. So I just had a lot of like self-confidence issues that I had to continually barrel through my life. And that's what I talk about in the book, are all of these instances and how it brought me to where I am now. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, what I keep hearing, and this is certainly not like an earth-shattering observation, but a lot of this comes down to language. I feel like what you declare about yourself or about your situation, and then, or whatever you name it. I mean, even your example that you shared, Elle, where you named it when you said men are unreliable, and then lo and behold, unreliable men just kept showing up in your life. And so something about the language and boldly declaring who you are as if you are it. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it. Would you say that's a big part of it? I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of like coaches and this imposter syndrome stuff, which we talked about earlier. And when JJ Virgin was on the show, she kind of said what you said, was like, yeah, you should experience imposter syndrome when you're doing something incredibly like out there. It's normal. But so I'm thinking in terms of coaches, like just declaring yourself a coach, declaring yourself a success, declaring yourself transformational. Do you think there's some piece of that involved in confidence?
Yeah, I would suggest a book called Words Matter by Yvonne Oswald. It's an older one, but she talks about how you reframe language. So for example, instead of losing weight, I need to release weight, right? You know, so again, I think language and adjusting it can really help us in any kind of affirmations. The point is that you get into your stuff and self-examine, which is my whole point in this book, is to get you inspired to self-examine, so that you get to the point where you can declare a thing with absolutely no shame, despite some feelings in the background. Look, I self-published this book. Of course, I had a moment of like, who do I think? Again, it's going to come up. Who do I think I am? Oh my God. And also I'm putting out stories, like super vulnerable stories about my personal life in here. So I had a moment of like, and then I was just like, you know what? And here's the ultimate. You know what? F it. Who else is going to do it? Go do it. Enough's enough. You got it. You're it for you, people. You're it for you. You don't got anyone else going to get out there and promote you. You know, so it's about doing the inner work and then finally at some point building up the guts to do it. Now, when you talked about the lack, you're right. There's a lot of coaches out there. How do you differentiate yourself? You know, I think it's less about that and the specifics and more about the ultimate, like, I know I'm awesome and I'm going to prevail regardless. And I don't care how it happens. Let's see. In fact, I think it's probably better to not do a specific path. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then everyone will want to coach with me. It's like, well, now you're just providing a limited pathway versus opening up to all the unknown possibilities that could go there. So I think that in general, it's about instilling a certain sense of faith that you're going to succeed in life at whatever you do. And maybe becoming a coach leads to something else that's truly your calling. Well, then wasn't it all worth it anyway? Who cares? Right? Maybe this isn't the end for you. Maybe the coaching thing, you're doing that for a while and it leads to something else. And later on, you're like, I could have never guessed that, but at least I did that step because I was interested in then and it led to another. We don't have to map out the rest of our lives. I couldn't have mapped out my life even 3 years ago to today, no matter how hard I tried, you know?
I definitely see that. It's the path I took. I never in a million years thought I'd be doing this ever, you know? And I think when it comes to company, so in this idea around coaching in general and health coaching specifically and building confidence to go there and declare yourself a coach, I wonder how much of this too is also rooted in really understanding what that means to you and what a coach is, or letting you define who you are as a coach rather than, because so many people will come up and be like, I don't even really know what that is. What is health coaching? It took me a little while to be able to put that in a phrase, a succinct phrase that I had confidence in about what I did. Right? Health
and some people do it differently.
Right,
like
exactly.
Some people track macros and stuff like that. I won't do that. Like if you call me and you're like, I want a whole meal plan. I'm like, well, I'm not your coach. Then go see Karen, or you know what I mean? So again, you have to define what is, you know, some people will go to your house and work with you one-on-one or Skype. I won't. I'm just going to talk to you on the phone. I'm not going to go to your house and clean out your cupboard, but there are other people that are okay doing that locally. So it's, again, like you design what you want to do without, here's the thing. When we start to calculate, would that be popular? Would that do well? Now we're in the realm of like statistics and quote reality, and nothing in my life for the past 7 years has had anything to do with such quote predictable, you know, musings, right? So again, I think people are into the how too much. We talk about law of attraction and things like that. They're getting into the how too much. And you have to do some things like, all right, I need business cards, or I need a website. And there's some inspired action you have to take that everybody does. But at the end of the day, only you're going to stop defining yourself by the projection of what you think strangers out there who haven't even met you yet are going to think of your coaching. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Again, it's not what other people think. You're projecting what other people might think of you. You haven't even met them yet. So how about you just project what you want them to see? You know what I mean? Versus let them decide your decisions. Again, if I cared about what people thought of me, I wouldn't have even done half the things in my life. And I talk about this in the book because when you're in a creative profession, you are downered all the time. People are like, yeah, good luck with that. Can you be an actor? Good luck with that. Oh, you're a writer? Isn't that tough? You get slammed from every which side to Sunday. And I'll tell you this, it happened with my book. I told a family member who loves me, I love them. I told them that I was gonna pitch a book to Mark, and I was really excited, The Paleothyroid Solution. And their first reaction was, well, you've never written a book. Okay, so ding number one, right?
Thanks.
Downer number one, thanks a lot. That could really F up a lot of people on the inside. But instead, I looked at them, I go, I've written lots of things. Just because it's a book, doesn't mean anything, just a different genre. But I was a little bit like, Okay, so then the next one, Mark says, I'm gonna publish a book. And I talked to that family member again, and I'm like, oh my God, Mark's gonna publish my book. Second downer, they go, well, now you're gonna have to write it. Oh my God, are you actually projecting onto me that you might not effing think that I'm gonna finish something I agree to, which by the way, I've always done. I've never been a person who doesn't finish what they start or talk about. So I was like, oh my God, here comes number two, ding. All right, so I was like, well, yeah, I'm gonna write it. Okay, then I write the book, and before it's even published, Barnes & Noble's decided that they're gonna buy 1,000 copies of it, and they haven't even read it yet. And I tell that to the same family member, and they go, well, that's silly. Like, why would they do that if they haven't read it yet? So basically the tone is like, well, they're stupid. What if they regret it? Your book is crap. And not, thank you, mother effer, for bringing me down a whole downer train, right? And at every step of the way, oh my God, I'm getting downer, right? But I keep going. And then my book does really well, etc. Now, later on, I went back to them and I said, I would like, because I wrote in the book and I showed them, like, do you see how unsupportive and what a horrible downer you were about my goals? And you're the one that's supposed to like, this person really loves me. They are in my corner. So someone who even really loves you can be a temporary downer and kill your confidence or throw a knife katana sword into it. And you're going to have to figure out how to pull it out and go, I don't even care what you think, regardless of whether you're my dad, my mom, my best friend, whatever, right? I also had another friend down, my best friend downed me during the process too. I was in the process of writing the book, The Paleothyroid Solution, and I get a call from my friend. And in a panic-like mode, as if they were talking to their child who had a book report due the next day, they were like, are you writing? What are you doing? Are you on it? Like, how far are you? They were just like, and I literally said to them, and this is also why you should have confident friends, because they can take a mic drop comment from you and move on. But I said, hey dude, what are you doing, man? You're being a downer. Have I ever not started, finished something I've started? And also, just because you don't have confidence in writing a book, don't you dare project that lack of confidence onto me. And so that's going to happen to you. You're going to have confidence in a thing, and someone is going to project their lack of confidence on it. And I said, just because you can't imagine writing a book or finishing an article, how dare you project that onto me? I'm actually a writer, dude, and I've proven it. Yeah. So I don't need you, my best friend, to be a downer. He was like, my bad, in my face, and the conversation's over. I think I've had like 2 of those conversations in my life with this friend. So again, this can happen with people that really actually love you and support you, but they're gonna have this realistic statistic thought. Or when I wrote my first book, people were like, well, are you gonna do this? You gotta do this for marketing, you gotta do that. I'm like, how about I don't gotta do any of it? How about I'm confident that I'll prevail. We'll see how it works out. I'll let the universe take care of it. Of course, I'm going to take some inspired action. I did a ton of interviews, of course I wrote some articles. Yes. But at the end of the day, again, you're going to get downered at every moment. Now, here's an example of a really stupid downer. I have like 9 of them in the book. One is I was driving to go to the crater in the top of 10,000 feet up in Maui, Haleakala. You can go up there to watch the sunrise. It's a very popular tourist thing. And I'm there and driving through, and the ranger, now I'm also a really good person with time management. Like, I'm never late. Okay. So I know I mapped this out already as to the timing of this. So we get to the park ranger shed, and he's like, "Are you here for the sunrise?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You're not gonna make it." And I said, "All right, well, I'm gonna take my chances." And in that moment, I was like, I have more confidence in my time management than this.
Watch me.
Watch me. Not only did I make it, I didn't have to rush. And when I got up there, it was 50 degrees, which is freezing for Maui. And there's about 5 minutes left for me to get my stuff, get cozy, and go out there. And it was like perfect timing. And on my way down, I just wanted to like flip the guy the bird and be like, "What's up, Deputy Downer?" Like, so how could he have done that better? Maybe he could have said, "Hey, listen, you're cutting it close, but it's beautiful up there anyway. It's worth it."
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, but how many people walked away and never got that experience on Maui because the downer ranger told them they weren't going to make it? That's all I'm saying. So it's a very minor one. Then you have big downer ones, like, you know, the ones I'm talking about where people are directly downering you. And I want to say this is a great story. I've been a complete downer, and we all are. So if you're out there listening and you're like, "Oh, I know some downers," you're probably a downer too. And I want to talk about a downer thing that I did to a friend, how I was a downer. I have a friend who is my age, and she's never had health insurance her whole life. Now, I'm a beneficiary of insurance. I was raised that you don't walk out of the house without it. And that's my belief. And it's a lot of people's beliefs. That's why we have insurance, in case something happens, right? She doesn't have that belief. And I was telling her, like, "Oh my God, you've got to get insurance. This is stupid. What if something happens? Like, you just need to be smart, da 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 da." And she's like, "Elle, I don't have any thoughts about my health that are negative, and I am not afraid or don't have the belief like you do, where if I walk out of my house without insurance, I'm unnerved. Like, I just don't have that belief." And I was like, I can't argue with that. But at the same time, I was like, "Oh, what an idiot. Like, are you kidding me?" And so I tried to convince her to get insurance. Tried to convince her she's wrong. Doesn't budge. We get off the phone. Here's my first thought. I said, "Watch, something's going to happen. She'll see." Hold the phone, guys. Think about me being right in that moment, me having that thought. Watch, she'll realize I'm right. In order for her to realize I'm right, she's going to have to get completely effed all around with money. Meaning she's going to have some horrible medical thing, number one. And then that horrible medical thing is going to have to cost so much money that it leaves her broke. And so, prove the point, insurance. Oh my God, well, who am I, right? But people have these thoughts all the time. We have them all the time. How did I know it was yucky? I didn't feel right when I got off the phone. I was in judgment. I was angry at her. I thought she was stupid. This is one of my best friends, by the way. I did call her, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm a downer." Like, I told her the thought. But I say that because people have these thoughts all the time, and you need to stop yourself. I'm down with OPC, other people's confidence. Stop jumping in on people's dreams. And when you have these thoughts, turn around and go, "Hold on a minute. Oh my gosh." Usually when you feel like you're right, someone else has to be hurt in order for that point to be made. And so again, it's just a momentary ego thing. It's part me protecting my friend, part me wanting not to get hurt. Yet in that process, I am actually wishing ill will upon her to be right. So whenever you have this thought of like, "Yeah, well, you'll see," check yourself, you know? And then the other thought too is, you know, I talk about being downered in creative professions. And so when I was in high school, there were two girls that I went to high school with, and they were over at my house, and they were talking about how they wanted to go to Hollywood to pursue their film and TV dreams. And I, at the time, totally rolled my eyes internally. And I was like, "Yeah, good luck with that. They'll be back here anytime," right? Like, just totally a downer. Oh my God, you guys, they both became famous, horribly wealthy, horribly respected actresses to this day. They did it. They did it. And then in my face, because then when I, years later, wanted to go pursue acting because of my hand disability and needing to use my voice, I noticed too, friends, people would kind of roll their eyes and be like, "Yeah, good luck with that." Got a taste of my own medicine about 15 years later. Good one, universe. But again, we have these thoughts. Why are they bad? You don't want people thinking them about you, and they just lower your vibration. When you have them, just stop yourself and go, "Hold on a minute. Here's another one. I have a client who, her assistant was quitting at a time that was very busy. But the assistant was quitting because they were about to get a promotion equal to their job. Meaning, you know, like a huge promotion in title and salary. And the client called me and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so annoyed. He's leaving. Not only that, I mean, he can manage a small group of people here, but he can't handle that job. Watch, he's going to be coming crawling. He's going to fail. He's going to come crawling back on his hands and knees begging for his job back." Again, let's deconstruct that. I was like, So you like this assistant, you love them, but suddenly you hate them because they're leaving you in an inconvenient time. Do you really hope that they fail so badly they're embarrassed and have to come crawling back for their effing job? Gross. Who are you?
Right.
And they were like, I really don't want that. I actually do like them. I go, I know you are. Your just ego is being affected right now because, someone's dropping you in the middle of a whatever.
Right.
I said, what if they go to that job and they kill it? Or what if they go to the job and they're so much better than the previous person that they are just a superstar? That could happen too. Wouldn't you want that for them? And, of course, they were like, no, totally. Gross. I don't want those bad vibes. Cut to a year later. The person that they were talking about, they did become a total superstar at that job. Why does it matter what our thoughts think? Because her name's Candace, because the next day going into the office after that conversation, we all know energy. You know when bad energy is coming your way. So instead of going into that office with an air of like, yeah, you'll be back, you idiot. You can't do jack, can't manage people, whatever. Without that air, instead, it was a completely different vibration of her going back to the office the next day and having that vibe of, no, I do want them to do well. Yeah, it sucks that they're leaving now, but what a different vibration overall. Like that's just a more positive experience for everybody. You know what I mean? So downers come in all forms. It could be a family member or even a best friend, and it could be temporary, and they're not normally a downer, but they might have that moment. How are you? Are you going to allow them to win by declaring what they think is your truth? I'm sorry, I'm not willing to do that. So what I talk about in the book is it's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself awesome. And this is also how I look at competition. If I'm in a competition with you guys, I'm like, let's say we're on a race. I am actually not going to go into that race thinking like, I'm going to beat the shit out of I'm going to I can't wait to see Erin lose. To me, it's going to be like, I'm just going to win. It has nothing to do with other people.
Right.
I'm just going to prevail. I'm going to dominate. And again, there's a different vibe of looking at that. The first one is me having a feeling of superiority over you and reveling in your misfortune of losing. And the other is just me prevailing. It's just, do you know what I mean? It's just a very different vibe, and one's confident and one's not.
That's a great analogy, because success isn't about other people failing. It's about you succeeding, right? And I think that, you get into this sort of self-downer talk where as long as everybody else fails, I might have a chance. And that's like, what a weird way to go into anything at all, right? A road race or an entrepreneurial journey. And I just think there's so many layers to this downer piece in your book. So kind of what I heard you articulate as a confident person, when a downer comes at you, their downer language is coming from their own lack of confidence. And your solution is to I don't want to say confront, but sort of draw back the curtains on that person and say, hey, what's up with that? Like, what's going on with you that you believe that about me, or something like that. So is that how you would suggest a person, if I'm trying to curate my own confidence and I have downers in my life, is that what you encourage people to do, is like really kind of turn the tables and expose that downer's lack of confidence?
If you're comfortable and confident in doing so, then do it.
Yeah.
If not, maybe you just stop hanging out with that person and you don't, Steve Harvey had a quote. It's like, don't tell $100 people your $1 million dreams. So here's the thing. I talk about this thing called a false sense of hope for consistency. I don't talk about it in this book, but I talk about it in general. We hope and we want that the people around us and loved ones are going to support us. But you keep hitting yourself up against the wall with the downer that's never supportive of your stuff or is always downing it, then you're the insane person who keeps going back and entering into this downer conversation, okay? So at some point you're going to have to go, no. Now, if that person is not normally this way, but they're having a moment and you're close enough to go, hey man, what's up with that? You're being a downer, dude. Yeah, call it. I do it too. I would want my friends to do the same thing. Sometimes it's just not comfortable and you need to ignore it and move on. But you're going to get it from everywhere. You have to be prepared and just know that. And again, sometimes maybe you need fellow coaches or a group that's, anonymous, or a coach, someone who's going to encourage you and be your cheerleader, so that the downers in your life aren't, you don't have to go to them to keep getting smacked in the face. This happens every time, and I've learned that too. And this is what I talk about. I not getting involved in conversations. Laura, we talked about this before the show. So it's like, if here's one example. The friend calls you every year, 4 years in a row, telling you that they want to lose weight and quit drinking. Mm-hmm. At some point, this is what I tell them. Guess what? You don't get to call me about this anymore because you're not doing anything meaningful about it. And I'm tired of hearing about it. Just have that conversation with someone else. You don't really want it. F off. Goodbye. Literally, that is what I would say and have said to people. Stop talking about it. Go. At some point, sometimes you got to exude like tough love, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm not available for conversations. And another kind of conversation is going on there online and commenting and getting into fights with people over politics or whatever else it is. Mm-hmm. Last thing you're going to see me do is get into a fight with a vegan online. I'm not going to even entertain that mm-hmm. nonsense. And here's why. And we talked about this before we went on, which is I would really love that person who goes on and gets embroiled in these things. I do not believe that person is there for a philosophical open debate. It's not. You're there to go make your point, to show them they're wrong, to show them they're stupid, to be right. You're not really involved in okay, so it's BS. It's BS at what it is. And all it does is raise the blood pressure of the people involved, negative energy out there. Most things are better left unsaid. Now, here's the thing. There's some people who are just in that game, right? Like if that's your world and your world is fighting vegans or online or politics, I get it. Well, then, don't complain about the negativity of it after it seeps into your soul, because I'm going to tell you engaged in that. So we have to stop engaging in conversations, okay, that go nowhere. And these are those kind of conversations. So for example, I have a friend who's very politically conservative and I'm more moderate, but I'm really liberal. And so like a lot of their views on life, I do not agree with. And they would trigger me on something, I'd get embroiled. And then I realized I'm not here to have he's never going to change his mind. I'm never going to change mine on this exact point. Stop having the conversation.
Yeah.
Stop having the conversation. You're trying to convince a wall of something. Stop.
Yeah.
It only, again, is chipping away. Also, too, confident people don't get involved in that because they don't have time for that. That's a fool's game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it's really liberating, too, to come to that awareness. Like, I'm not going to bother engaging in this argument because this is just arguing for the sake of arguing. I'm out. And there's something so just freeing about extracting yourself from that.
Yeah, Marxism doesn't get involved in it. Marxism, there's people out there that write online, oh, you're horrible for, pitching meat to us. And you think Mark's on there commenting back to all of them? No, he's just going about doing his thing. And by the way, if people are talking about you that way, then you know what? That's a good thing. Because if you're out in the world and you're pushing something, there's going to be some kickback. And that's what you asked for.
Well, yesterday I was listening to a debunking of a debunking of a debunking of a debunking of a documentary. It's like, oh my God.
I think I was listening to the same one.
Yeah, we're talking about the Chris Kresser, Joe Rogan, Game Changers debate.
Yes. And I was thinking to myself, like, I listened to the whole thing. The original Joe Rogan podcast, the second one, all the debunks. I've spent hours listening to this. And eventually I was like, why am I listening to this? I don't care. And I thought, you know who doesn't argue like this ever? Mark.
Right.
There's a smart, confident dude who just rolls out in the world confidently, just behaving as if he has the answer, not needing to argue it into the ground. Like, it's really pointless. Mm-hmm. And honestly, this is he is. This is the reason why this is important for health coaches to hear, I think, is because how many times do we see health coaches infighting amongst ourselves about what this or that? And it's like, meanwhile, there's clients out there that actually need our help and we're just arguing amongst ourselves. And it's like, if we can just confidently step out of that and just confidently go in the direction of the people who need our help, like Mark does, then we're actually moving the needle and changing lives.
Let's talk about Mark's confidence.
Just a little rabbit hole.
Let's talk about Mark's confidence. Mark is extremely confident. However, he would tell you that sometimes, and his daughter would tell you that sometimes he can be the shyest guy too in a situation. Sometimes people will meet him and they're expecting, and maybe in that moment if he's at the grocery store, he can be also a little bit shy. It's not that he's lack of confidence or something, but someone might be able to like, oh, well, he's so gregarious out there. He has also other sides to him too. Sometimes he's just a little bit shyer than you would imagine because he's so outspoken. And so, he's got so many sides to him. And I want to tell you about that as well, because I had to exude major confidence when I was doing my book deal with Mark. And what happened is we were talking in his living room and he loved the idea. And he suggested something most people would suggest, totally legitimate. He said, how about you get a doctor and you guys write it together? They don't write anything. You write the book and they don't get any money, but then it looks more like street cred that it's like written by you and a doctor. And literally verbatim, here was my response, and I put it in the book. Mark, I'm a female writer. Do you know how many glass ceilings I've had to break to get here? I'm not sharing writing credit with some dude or anyone else when they haven't written a thing.
Yeah.
His response, cool, got it, moving on.
Right.
He got it, but here's the thing too. A lot of men, so if you're a woman out there, a lot of men, and again, Mark's one of the most evolved dudes ever on planet Earth. Talk about being pro-women. He hired a 32-year-old woman to run Primal Kitchen, Morgan Bueller. He's so pro-women, he allowed me to host his podcast. Mark is like so pro-women. But sometimes even guys just have to be reminded, like, hey man, I had to I'm in a different category here, so I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now, most people in that scenario would be like, it's my first book deal. And they would have just been like, okay. They would have acquiesced to the publisher. But I didn't. I was like, no, Mark, I'm not doing that. And he's like, okay, cool. And moving on. What if I didn't say that? I'd be regretting it to this day, you guys. Right. I'd be regretting it so hard. You have no idea that I just gave writing credit to someone who didn't do jack. You guys, I can tell you right now, I am so grateful that I was confident AF in that conversation to say that. Instead of acquiesce under, cowering, like, whatever you say, because now he could have argued back with me and be like, well, I disagree. He didn't though. So Guess what? Never hurts to ask, does it? Never hurts to try. Say it, speak it. You might get pushback, but you're never going to get what you want unless you say it. And I'm really glad I didn't do that, you guys, because I'm telling you, again, female writer, but also who do you think everybody would defer to on the book had I shared the writing credit with the doctor?
Yeah.
The doctor. And they didn't do anything. I mean, I had my doctor's on the book. He was a consultant on it, of course, but he didn't, you know what I mean? So again, little moments like this in life, and this is where confidence and self-esteem comes in. And sometimes it's not comfortable. You say it anyway, and you deal with it. It's about being comfortable with uncomfortability and confrontation, as well. Now, I rarely get tested for speaking up because I speak up all the time. So I rarely get tested where I think in general, again, less confident people with low self-esteem are targets for confident people that are not evolved, that will dominate over you and barrel over you and take advantage of you. You allow it, but it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I rarely get challenged, but in the past 5 years, 3 times, random strangers have tried to bully me, like out of nowhere. And they have regretted it horrifically each time because they picked on they were not expecting, right? They were like, oh my God. And they got a mouthful of murder. Let me tell you something, watch out. You come up to me and you're gonna start screaming at me out of nowhere or bully me. I don't care, in the steam room at my gym, I will take you down with words immediately. This is what I did 3 times. All 3 of those women barely look at me now. No one talked to me. They were stunned. They were stunned right into, don't try it again, B. Watch out who you talk to. You don't know who's on the other side of it. You think I'm a tiny little white girl with blonde hair and you can mess with me? Good luck with that. So I rarely get tested, but when I do, it's pretty strong. And it's usually with like an adult bully in some random situation, like literally sauna at my gym, steam room at my gym, like random, things where you're
very vulnerable situations.
Yeah. What's going on here? Every time. Yeah. Regretted it.
Can I ask?
And by the way, I feel really great about that to this day. So glad I spoke up if I didn't put them in their place. So sometimes I have to use my confidence as dominance. Sometimes I have to just smack a mofo down. It's very rare though. And I think it's very rare because I don't exude that. But if you're a stranger and you don't know it, but if you've known me and talked to me a few times, like there was a guy who interviewed me and then in the intro later, I put this in my book, he did the intro later and then I listened to it and he goes, Elle Russ is a real spitfire. I would definitely want to work with her, but I wouldn't want to mess with her. And I thought, good. Yeah. I'm glad you got that impression.
Yeah.
Glad you got that impression. Not because I'm mean, but because I'm gonna speak my mind and that. So if you're gonna try to mess with me in there, you can probably get some kickback. You know what I mean? So I'm great at standing up for myself, but at the other end of the day, I don't get challenged often. So you have to realize you're putting out vibes. If you have low self-esteem, you are putting out vibes and you are attracting some more dominant personalities to possibly barrel over you and challenge you further. You're going to keep coming across it until you master it, until you cancel it, until you're like Brandon and go, hey man, I'm walking off this job right now unless you talk to me in a proper tone, right? Until you get to that point, you're going to keep getting the lesson.
Yeah. So, you talk about the kind of weird random stranger bullies in the steam room. And it's kind of like, if you think about the spectrum of, confrontational conversations, like even the conversation you have with Mark about the book was sort of low on the spectrum, and that, you know, confrontation when the steam room was high on the spectrum. In both of those scenarios, you boldly, sort of confidently responded. My question as you were telling that story was like, how did that feel in the moment? Because you said afterwards you look back and said, I'm so glad I spoke up for myself. But like in the moment, like as a confident person, when you're, is it frustrating? Okay, like your heart's racing, like you're still having that experience?
Not as much with Mark, because that was just a quick comment. The one in the steam room, no, I mean, my adrenaline is up, you know, it's like fight mode. It's literally like a fight mode. It is fight or flight. It's like, I either stand up for myself and take you down, or I let you barrel over me. And I was not willing to actually, I'll tell you the steam room experience. You guys might think it's petty. I think it's funny, and I think it's awesome. So I walk into my steam room, and there's a woman in there. I kind of can't see her. She's far. It's just the two of us. And the steam kicks up heavy, and I take a really deep breath. I'm like, okay, you heard what my nose. No boogers came out of my nose. Whatever. I just did a deep breath like that. Okay, and then I hear in the steam room, the woman goes, oh my God. Now, I didn't know what she was talking about. So I said, are you okay? And she goes, I'm just wondering where all your boogers went. And I go, they went nowhere because I didn't sneeze. And then all of a sudden the steam started to kick up. It was loud. I was like, damn it. But then here's the beautiful thing that happened. This is where the universe just delivered so well on this. Right as the steam kicked up, she horrifically coughed. I couldn't have asked for a better thing to happen. So when the steam died down, I go, hey, where'd all your phlegm go? You just cough. She goes, oh, lighten up, Buttercup. I go, don't you call me Buttercup. You better think twice before you try to bully someone in the steam room, bitch.
Okay.
And then here's the thing. So then we're there. And now I'm sitting there, I'm going, oh, I'm not leaving the steam room. She's leaving first. Like, I'll take this dominance till the end. I was like sweating. I was like, I gotta. She left, and on her way out, as she's walking, I'm sitting by the door. I just literally, without blinking, stared her in the face, in the eyes. She learned her lesson. Don't be a bitch. Don't be a catty bee. Did she really need to say that? What are you talking? But guess what? She coughed. I mean, she horrifically coughed. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better gift in this moment. It was like, I walked out of the gym that day and I was like, yes, universe, thank you. I probably called 3 friends. I'm like, you're never believe this is a good one. This one was a good one. Okay. Now, I felt so good about that. Did I need to get involved with her in that? Okay. By the way, after that, after I gave her my tirade, she shut down. She didn't say anything, and she just breathed herself. She goes, okay, just breathe. And I'm like, really? So don't you dare try to come at me, putting me on edge, trying to dominate me, a person you don't know, over something absolutely ridiculous. And now you're coughing your ass off. Okay. And so now you've just, it's like the person that's like, F you, and they walk out of the room and they slam into the door. You're like, you know what I mean? And so again, these are like the small things that I will get involved with. Now, some people would say this, and this is what I talk about in my book, but that's not very evolved. You know, if you're going to be spiritual, then you should, no, this is our primal instincts. I'm totally willing to indulge it because I feel so much more powerful and confident when I come out of something like that. How dare you? You're not going to take me down. You're not going to be a mean girl to me, to my face. Are you kidding me? Boy, did she mess with the wrong chick. And she realized that later. And that's happened to me a couple of times. Now, again, very rarely. I rarely have to get in these confrontations, again, because I speak up. But I still am challenged occasionally. And again, it's by some random, it's always by some random chick in this neighborhood. And now people, so I feel I am all about indulging the ego in certain circumstances. I mean, if you read Mark's Primal Connection, like, we didn't sit around being victims. We moved, we forged ahead, you know, so we weren't simmering in victimhood. And the other hand too, you had to declare yourself, right? You had to draw boundaries, like, this is my tribe, this is my woman, or whatever it is. It's important. We are still in this meat suit. So I don't like it when modern spiritual teachers are like, the whole point of being evolved is to be non-reactive to everything and be a state of peace. Guess what? I don't live on a commune. I live in the real world. There's going to be some bee coming at me in the gym. Now, why did I do that? Sometimes I feel like maybe I am a little bit of like the person that needs to take down some bullies, you know? Maybe that woman will think twice next time she speaks up to somebody like that. She was just being a bee. Let's be honest. She was just being a total bee, trying to overpower me, and she lost at that game so severely because what came at her was unexpected. Now, granted, I am skilled in it because I have lots of years of improv. I'm a fast talker. I'm very articulate. And I'm from downtown Chicago. So, for me, I can go there. And I'm not saying everybody should do that. You choose what's right for you. But God, did that fill me with great confidence that day that I didn't just cower and then I did speak up. Does that make sense? I know that sounds, some people are going to be like, that was really harsh. Okay. But guess what? It fueled me and I feel great about it.
And it nipped it in the bud, you know? I mean, I could
Never
see
happen again.
Right. And health coaches are going to have to speak up in a lot of instances. First of all, when they're challenged over how they price themselves, what they're charging people. They may have to speak up if they're ever just putting themselves out there in content and somebody disagrees, right? And you're going to have to kind of stand confident in what it is you said and why you said it without arguing, right? But just being there and being confident in it. You'll likely have to speak up to the downers and the naysayers that are telling you there's no market for this. Who's going to pay? Like, what is a health coach anyway? There's just so many instances around where just being a coach, being a health coach and putting yourself out there makes people feel vulnerable, where they will ultimately be in a situation where they have to speak up. And if you can't find the confidence to do it, or let me rephrase that. If you can't speak up, the confidence isn't going to be there, right?
You
It's
have to speak up.
way at you every time.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, this is the big one, I think, for people is putting a price tag on their services, and this is what it costs, and not dialing that back and cheapening themselves. I
had this conversation with someone recently because they're a singer and they do improvisational singing, and they were charging very little, and they were talking about how to raise the rates, but is it really worth it? Will these people pay for it? This is what I have found, and I think everybody I've interviewed and talked to when we talk about this has found, you raise your rates, the people will come. Mm-hmm. They will be there. You're not marketing yourself out of something. In fact, you'll see no one has a problem with it. Now, you can still keep your old rate for old clients. You can do something like that, you know, to make those people feel better about that transition. And they are maybe more likely to even keep coming to you because they know they have this like old good rate. I had an issue raising my rates, and I practically doubled them at some point. And I had even a moment, again, I'm confident AF, and I still had a moment of like, you know, and so here's how you look at that. Whatever it is you're going to charge, I don't care if it's $50, $200. Whatever number you're looking at, you have to think, am I going to be happy about that though? Or do I think I shortchanged myself? You'll know the answer. You go, does that feel good? Like, not whether you're worth it or not, but like, do I feel like that's worth my time? You know, what's my time worth? And again, maybe for starters, it's only $60 an hour and you're cool with that. Maybe after a while, as you get some more confidence as a coach and you've gotten some clients, maybe then you're like, you know what? My shit's worth $100 an hour. And then you make that move then. You start whatever's comfortable with you, but I guarantee you it's going to grow at some point because your confidence will grow as you're exuding the skill and you're coaching people. And then you will realize, wait, I think I'm worth more than this. You know what I mean? And however that comes to you and when, you'll see it happened to me at some point too, but it wasn't at first. At first, I think I charged $60 an hour. You know, and then I think it was even Mark who was like, you should be charging at least $100 an hour. And, so again, and now I charge $200 an hour and $100 for a half an hour for whatever coaching you want. I don't care if you're a writer and you need mentoring or you want life coaching or whatever. Now, it took a minute to get there though, but it also took some experience along the way. I had to develop my own confidence in this area. Again, I had it, but it needed to be developed through clients. I needed to have more conversations with people. So again, you know, you can declare something big off the bat or start where you feel comfortable and where you feel good about it. Maybe that is only $50, $60 an hour. And then as you build up, you're like, you know, so declaring one's rate and one's worth is a tough thing. I used to hire people for a living. And so a lot of people come to me when they want raises. And it's really not about, here's the thing. It's not about the asking of it for the thing. That is a speaking up. It's usually that they need to feel worthy of the number they're asking for. And so the coaching there with that person is usually about going through all the things that they do and why that is worth it, to prove it to them so that they feel better about asking for it. So, I mean, it all starts with you, right? You gotta get comfortable with it. And I think I told you too, one time someone came to me and they were like, do you think I'd be a good coach? And I was like, if you keep asking that question, the answer is no, because, you know, at some point you've got to be like, I may not be confident in it, but I think I'd be good at it. We have all those thoughts a lot. You know, I think I'd be good at that. I don't know anything about it, but I think I'd be good at it. Just that thought right there can spawn you to then be like, well, I'm confident in it and I can learn a thing. You know, I would talk about this book. So Ashley Van Houten, she's the host of Paleo Magazine Radio. She edited my book and helped me publish it. And what was great is that I didn't tell anyone the title, and I knew she was an editor. And so I texted her and I said, hey, Ashley, I'm looking for an editor for a book that I'm writing. Do you know any book editors? And confident as F, she wrote back and she goes, well, I've been editing for a long time and I haven't edited a full book, but that's just semantics. Talk about confident, right? That's the same thing that someone said to me. And they're like, you've never written a book. I'm like, I've written tons of other things before. I'm not worried about it. So once you have confidence in any kind of skill or ability, again, someone came to me, they were like, I need a documentary writer. I didn't say, oh, I've never written one, but I think I can. I, in my head, go, I don't know what I'm doing, but I am a writer, and I'm probably sure I'll figure it out. So once you have any kind of confidence in any level, you can expand it to others. Again, it's just a general belief that even you can learn a thing can be the confidence. Now, I did overhear someone recently who's a PhD, and they said this to another person at last year's Paleo FX. They said, you know, the problem is that I really know my stuff. I'm just not confident. This person has a PhD, you guys, okay, a PhD in the thing, and they know, see, they're saying, I'm confident in my ability and the information. What they're not confident about is getting it out there. They're not confident in telling other people they're confident. If they just told that every time they talk to someone, I'm confident as F in what I know, but they're not in getting it out there to people. Seems a little bit contradictory, doesn't it? And it is. It is.
Well, that's also too where really getting clear on your niche and what problem you solve for people, for coaches, is a big step in confidence. And I use this analogy where I had a job a while back where I had to be on camera talking about sporting goods. And if it was a sporting good that I understood, like a yoga mat, I was great. If it was a snowboard, even though I was following a script and reading off a teleprompter, it came across terribly because I didn't know what I was talking about, because I don't care about snowboarding because winter sucks. So, but like crafting your niche, knowing what you're really good at, and just honing in on that, boom, confidence. And that makes it also easier. You're just more authentic, you're more confident, just makes your life easier in a lot of ways.
Let's talk about authenticity, because confident people are the most authentic people, and that's why people trust them. They are usually the most capable. They're fearless. I mean, if you're in an accident, you're going to go call over to the low self-esteem. Have you ever been in school and chosen like the weak, not confident people to be on your team for Red Rover? No, you choose the most confident, bully ass people in the whole group. Like, get them on my team because they're going to dominate, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
I think it can be obvious in how you present yourself. So I had, interestingly, in the last 2 weeks, I've had 2 people approach me for coaching who are plant-based people, right? Which I accepted both of them. And we were talking about things, but what's interesting is, you know, what they both said, I didn't even have to ask, because a lot of times I'll ask, you know, what is it? Why did you approach me, of all people, actually, you know? And what they both said is, I know you care, and I know you know your stuff. But neither one of them have had a one-on-one deep conversation with me to know that. It just came across in what they've seen, how I present myself, what I talk about. So even though they know that I don't personally eat a vegan diet, you know, I do eat plants, okay, you know, but they know that I care, and that at the end of the day, I just want them to improve. And I'm willing to work with them as long as they understand the consequences of making that choice and what have you. But they did it because they knew that I was passionate, I cared, and that I knew what I was talking about. Whether I agreed with their choice or not actually wasn't all that important. I wasn't there to bully them into what I believed, right? It is, okay, here's our context. Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, and they gather that because you actually were confident enough to put out some videos and things like that. And if people saw your page and see how you speak, that's how they're going to think. A fellow, not a primal health coach, but a fellow coach on Instagram, everybody should check out, who she's really blown up. And I had her on the podcast recently, Tara Garrison, Tara Garrison.
Tara, sure.
She's really putting out a lot of content. She knows her stuff. She's a personal trainer, and she's ripped, like she, you know, and again, just when you watch her page or yours, you go, I trust them. You know, I know that they're confident. Gosh, you know, for people that are worried about doing videos and stuff of themselves, reach out to Arian Alexander. She really helps people. You guys have interviewed her, I'm sure. She helps people get comfortable with videoing themselves and going through that whole thing. So again, there are so many people out there to help you at every step of the way, whatever it is that you're lacking a little bit of confidence in. Yeah. But it is essential to life. You're never going to get. First of all, also really precludes never hurts to ask. My whole story of my past 7 years is never hurts to ask. Hey, Mark, I want to publish a book. Oh, yeah. Hey, I was wondering, can I get some money to do some press for my book? Yeah, here's $2,000. Oh, okay. I was going to ask for $1,500. Thanks. Glad I asked. Glad I did not ask for that or whatever. You know what I mean? So again, at every step of the way, it was like, never hurts to ask. The never hurts to ask is you're okay with rejection too.
Right.
You just got to get okay with it. I get rejected all the time, and you just have to be okay with that. That's hard for people to take at first. Just know you're going to come across it, but you're never going to get anywhere unless you ask anyway. It doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? Now I really screwed myself because I wrote a book called Confident as F. I can't falter now, right? Damn, now I got to really walk the walk. And I do, though. I really do walk the walk on confidence. People know this about me. They hear me being interviewed. They understand this vibe about me. But at the end of the day, we still have pitfalls. We still have moments. And again, they're just quickly turned around versus a non-confident person. And again, self-esteem, these two are intertwined, although people would say they were different. And I do have a great conversation with a PhD from Psychology Magazine and elsewhere from Duke University, who we talk about this. So many interesting studies on this. This is how I look at it as confident as F. It's inside and outside. Now, some of the most confident people are the quietest people in the room, and I really want to get this across to the people out there that aren't outgoing like the three of us, okay? Some of the most confident people I know are the quietest people in the room. They're the person that's in the corner at the party by themselves. Everyone's like, oh, poor guy over there alone. Don't feel sorry for him. He's just observing and having the time of his life because he doesn't give an F what people think. That's confidence. I actually prefer that in like romantic partners. I really like this quiet, down-to-earth confidence. I'm obviously, a public figure like you guys, so we're out there and we're doing this stuff. But some of the most confident people are the quietest people in the room, and some of the least confident people are out. Let me tell you, sir, you can be confident in so many things and be so insecure on the inside. I use an example in my book of this guy named John. He's an anesthesiologist. He can throw a needle in your neck, put you out for surgery, and bring you back to life. Oh, that takes a lot of confidence, right? You are messing with people's lives. Not only that, he's a spear fisherman. He can go into the ocean, miles out, wrangle a 150-pound sea creature, hold his breath for 5 minutes. Confident as F in these two things. They require major confidence, fearlessness, big time. And we're talking about sharks out in the middle of the ocean. And we're talking about life or death with these people. Yet John cannot have a conversation with his neighbor. The neighbor's about to pressure wash his house. He just washed his. It's going to get dirty, and he can't go over and even have a conversation. He can't. He's mulling it over in his head for a week. Oh, what if they ruin my house? All these like conversations in their head because they are a people pleaser at the truth of it. And they literally can be confident in your ability in something, but they are not confident with relationships. This guy can't speak up in relationships. So I went through this whole thing with him and I put it in the book. But basically I was like, well, what are you afraid of? Why don't you just go next door and go, hey man, I see you're going to be pressure washing your house. I just cleaned mine. Any chance your guys can put some tarps up or whatever? How long did that take? Okay. And he goes, well, that sounds so easy. I go, well, what are you afraid of? Well, I just don't want him to think I'm an asshole. Why would he think you're an asshole? Is he a nice guy? No, he's a nice guy. I go, well, all right. But if you don't do it and then he gets your house dirty, now you're angry and now you're resentful and you're going to have to work at it from that angle. Or you say nothing. And then again, this is just inner turmoil. He finally goes over and has a conversation where you think the neighbor is like, yeah, no problem. And for some reason, if they get your house dirty, I'll have them clean it. He's like, that was so easy. Yeah. So shooting people's, necks into people's, needles into people's spine, wrangling sea creatures out of the ocean, lots of confident AF abilities and hobbies, but yet in here, low self-esteem, weak, can't speak up, total people pleaser. Again, so there's a lot of senses of false confidence, outward confidence in a thing. Doesn't mean you're confident inside. This is what people have to look to when you're interviewing people. You know what I mean? For whether it's like for dating or whether for a job, you have to really assess, is this person truly confident? And there's ways to assess that. But again, you can be confident on the outside and you are a mess on the inside. And that's the whole point of this book, inner, outer, even if the outer's not performance confidence, right? You can be the person at the party who's alone in the corner and you don't care. And one of the things, I mentioned this in my book, I have an esthetician, who does facials for me sometimes. And she kind of needs some, again, I draw people in who need confidence and we have these conversations. And she said to me one day, she goes, I was thinking about you the other day because I feel really weird when I walk into a restaurant or to a place where I don't know people. I feel very insecure and I feel really like low self-esteem. And she said, I was thinking about you and I was thinking, I bet Elle doesn't ever feel this way. And then she goes, how do you feel when you walk into a room? And literally without hesitation, I go, I walk into every place like I own the motherfucker. And she was like, okay, that sounds really, really weird at first. I own it. I don't mean that I walk into a place caring about whether I'm going to impress people, or how people see me. Not at all. That's not what this is about. Is that I walk in like, I'm open to whatever. I'm okay standing in a corner just observing. I'm open to conversations. I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I don't care whether they like me or they don't. And I'm not there to impress anybody, you know? So that's a level of comfortability everybody should get to. Walking into a place where you don't know anybody and you're totally comfortable in being yourself. That's what I mean by that. Not that I'm going in there to dominate and, you know, take everyone down or prove them that I'm awesome, or actually it's the opposite, you know? And so I also want to talk about how it's really like a gross self thing to be a victim and to constantly be in that place, because really it's like, wow, you're so important that you think everyone in the world cares about this part of you. It's a defeating, constant digging hole. We have to bring ourselves up. Self-esteem and confidence is the only thing that's going to get you through life and make your dreams come true. Half of my dreams have come true because I've spoken up or went forward in confidence. I mean, listen, I talk about people in my comedy theater when I used to do comedy. I had a couple mean girl situations back then that I had to call out, and I talk about them in detail in there. But to gloss over it, I would be backstage in like a full-on costume. I mean, wig, mustache. I mean, like a full-on different character like you would see on SNL. And I remember I was standing backstage once, and this mean girl in my group came by and like looked at me in my outfit and just like kind of laughed and rolled her eyes like, yeah, whatever. I remember I had a moment before that show. I was like right before I was about to go on. Ooh, what a jerk, right? Bad form. Turns out that sketch, this is what's great. That sketch was the best sketch of the night. Not only that person's husband happened to have been there, and they had to suck it and come backstage to introduce her husband to me because it was his favorite sketch he had ever seen at the theater, which is a big slam on his wife, who also writes sketches at that theater. And I was just going, yeah, that's exactly how that worked out. You tried to, that's just bad form in performing. How dare you? I'm your team member. I'm cool. What you got? This girl was just, you know, finally one day I called her on it. And I said, hey, called her up. I go, hey man, we're working in a comedy routine. All I'm asking for is courteousness. I don't care what kind of problem you have with me, but let's be professional. Yeah. And she came back with me at the mean girl thing, and I smacked her down, and that was the end of it. After that, what happened? She offered to buy me a drink after one of the shows. She called me complimenting me on my sketches. Again, you bully a bully, you take them down, they walk west, and they usually end up sucking up. So again, feeling very good about that. But man, sometimes you'll get hit right before a moment. What are you going to do? And usually I find out that the universe will give you some prizes, like the prize of her coming back with her tail between her legs, with her husband profusely being like, that's my favorite sketch I've ever seen in my life, was very gratifying. And again, people might go, ooh, that's ego. I don't like that. I'm going to indulge my ego there. I feel it's good for my soul. I'm also a human being. I'm in a primal meat suit. We got instincts. I'm going to indulge that instinct. You get what I'm saying there?
Absolutely. I love how you just declare it and own it. So I think I love this conversation because everything you've said immediately resonates with anybody stepping into something new or different or scary or weird or like health entrepreneurship or whatever it might be, or lifestyle change. You know, think about it from the perspective of our clients who are also unconfident. So I'm thinking your book is a must read for health coaches. That's what I'm thinking. So health coaches get Elle's book. But you mentioned that there's you kind of dropped this idea of like a self-examination that people need to kind of go through to understand where they're at on the confidence spectrum. And so does your book then help lead people through maybe an approach or a system to help them recognize where their confidence is lacking and how to bolster specifically their areas of lack?
Yeah, so the way that I do it is different from other books on confidence. So, you know, as a writer, when you're writing a book on something, you got to go read and check out all the other books in the area to see like what other, you know, where do you contribute? Mine is so different than all the others. They are very, I'll just say it, they're very stiff. They're very like specific exercises. My point in this book was giving relatable examples like I've given you with the friend insurance, whatever, real life stuff that you can relate to, so that by the end of the story you go, I see what I need to do or what I need to look out for. Now I do at some point pose some questions to ask yourself, right? Like, okay, let's look at these questions, and these questions can lead you into self-examination. But for the most part, and very funny because, you know, Mark Sisson wrote the foreword, thank God, it's so great. And in his foreword, he was like, I mean, it's pretty funny because he was like, look, you know, you're not going to get any acronyms in here and some, you know, classic. You're just going to get some straight up, raw, unfiltered, you know, stories about my life and others. I feel that that's most relatable. The problem for me when I read books or people are talking about, I'm like, give me an example though. Give me like a real tangible thing that happens between two people that I might have experienced so that I can get this. So that's really what this book is about. And I think it does it very well. It's also a really quick, easy, kind of fun, entertaining read. You know what I mean? This is not a tough one, and it's not scientific, you know, and there's not graphs and charts. And so and some of the most confident people who I know that are even my friends have said things like, you know, while I consider myself evolved anyway, reading your book alerted me to some things I kind of had forgotten or needed to refine or to rethink, you know? So even for the people that feel they're already there, this is a great refresher and might allude to something that as a confident person, you need to figure out. And same for if you just are coming from low self-esteem, this is the most encouraging book for getting out there and doing it, you know, whatever it is. And I don't care if it's that you want to be a stamp collector. It doesn't really matter. You know, this is really not about becoming a performer or a speaker. It's about everything in life requires confidence. So I don't care if it's like your steak comes back to you medium rare and you ordered it medium. You know what I mean? I mean, there's people that are like, I don't want to make a trouble. It's like, oh my God, get the steak that you want, right? Yeah. So, and again, there's other times where I would say, and I said this in the book, there are times to not be authentic. If I go to your grandmother's house and for dinner and she just got a new shirt and says, don't you think my shirt's cute? And I think it's ugly as F. Of course, I'm not going to say that. It looks beautiful on you, right? Of course. So this is not about being a brash person walking around pontificating confidence and being some dominant personality. It's about being able to gauge when to not engage. And also, again, because it's a fool's game for confident people to get involved in that. And also, sometimes the truth is just not always appropriate in those kind of scenarios, right? Let the person have the win or think they have a great haircut. Now, that being said, if you're my friend and you go, does this outfit make me look fat? I will tell you the truth. But my friends know me and they wouldn't ask that unless they wanted the real answer. And they often do ask me that because they do want the real answer. They come to me and say, I know you're going to tell me the truth. By the way, that's the best compliment anyone can say to me. Mark has said it before to me when I gave him a compliment. He said, that means so much coming from you because I know you don't blow smoke. Mm-hmm. Neither does Mark. Right. Confident people are trusted because they are authentic, but that doesn't mean you don't exercise editing. For example, like your 9-year-old grandmother says the N-word at Thanksgiving. Hey, maybe that's not the time for me to teach everybody about civil rights and whatever. Okay, it's your grandmother. You have that talk with her. It's uncomfortable. It's not letting everything go, but it's not about jumping in and fighting every battle either. And that's where I talk about in the book. Confident people choose their battles wisely. And I know firsthand about not doing that because I was bad at, not choosing my battles wisely. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So where can people, let's tell them where they can find it and where should people hit you up to get a copy of that?
Yeah, well, it's on print and Kindle on Amazon.com. So you can get your copy there. And then ElleRuss.com for anything if you want to contact me for coaching or learn more about me or see some interviews. And I love it. I love being a primal health coach. I love talking with people and helping them in their lives. And again, just love your show, love Primal Blueprint podcast. The fact that we get to do this, so lucky.
Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah, just so lucky. So, and I just want to, no one's going to do it but you. Whoever you are out there, you got to do it. And it might take a little bit of quote faking, meaning it's not comfortable at first to declare a thing. There's awkward. Look, I have awkward moments too. Like I got to go ask for this. The difference between me and the non-confident person is I do it anyway. Right. I do it despite the uncomfortability. So don't think that my confidence here is me never having an uncomfortable, yucky moment. Like when I was in the steam room, I had awful, yucky feelings in there. I mean, I don't want to be in these kind of situations. But my self-worth and my pride and my self-esteem was too worth it to not. Right. So I did. And to this day, so glad I did. So again, being comfortable in uncomfortability is also confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, first of all these anecdotal stories, but just more about you and real life stories about overcoming this stuff, because I think it's going to be invaluable to the listeners. So thank you again, as always. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And I'll be at Paleo FX 2020 talking about the book. So if anyone's going to be there, come say hi and see me.
Awesome.
Right.
Bye.
Thanks, Elle.